you through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Yes, people. Obviously, we're back in the building. Sorry, guys, just trying to adjust my settings. Obviously, sorry about the voice. Had surgery this week. So, you know, my voice is going to sound a little bit kind of mash up. So I do apologize if certain words aren't really clear and all of that kind of stuff. But you know me, bro. You know what time it is. You know what it is. I always have to be back in the bloody building. So yeah, wanted to have a little chat and a little talk, a little scout watch, so to speak. You know, Liverpool, apparently this summer supposed to be a big one for the club. Supposed to be getting quite a lot of deals done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done for Liverpool Football Club. There's a lot of outgoings. Obviously, we know with quite a few players who are their contracts obviously expiring. Roberto Firmino, Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, James Milner, and then you've obviously got the players who might potentially leave to get some football. So we've got Kaim Kelleher, you've got Fabio Carvalho, potentially Curtis Jones, depending on how, you know, Klopp kind of sees that. Harvey Elliott, who knows, like Joe Gomez might want to leave. Diogo Jota is obviously a player that people have spoken about who could potentially leave the football club. So there's a lot of things that might actually be going on, you know, with Liverpool come the summer. But I think the most important thing that we as fans are trying to see is the incomings. So a lot of players, and I do mean probably over 100 by now. Liverpool have been linked with every midfielder that you can think of. Any midfielder that's doing well in any team, I promise you, Liverpool have been linked to them. Any defender who can play in a back three who's doing well, I promise you that Liverpool have probably been linked with them as well. Any right back that you see who can get forward on the pitch, I promise you, Liverpool have probably been linked with them as well. It's just the theme. Journalists know what they're doing. Guys, I always even say to people, take all of this stuff with a pinch of salt. We don't know as content creators. Any content creator that goes out there telling you that they know, they don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? We as journalists, we don't know. I'm not a journalist, but just in a general sense, like journalists, they don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? The way that Liverpool do business, it's difficult to really even understand and know what exactly they're going to do, because their next move might be completely different to what you actually think it could potentially be. So, you know, all of these kind of little variables, all of these kind of, you know, little things and stuff like that, we don't know. All we go by is obviously the reports that we see. So that brings us on to today and what we're here to obviously talk about. Now, one player that's obviously been linked with Liverpool, was linked with Liverpool actually recently. You guys can obviously see it in the title, and that is Levi Colwell. Now, obviously, Levi Colwell plays for Brighton at this current moment in time. Has been playing for Brighton just this season on loan, obviously, from Chelsea. So, you know, he's getting that experience, that Premier League experience. He's appeared 15 times, scored 0 goals, and has got 1 assist. Now, can play centre back and can play left back. I think he's also even appeared as a left midfielder. That might have been in a, maybe it's coming on as a sub or something like along those kind of lines. But he can appear in that kind of position. And I think with someone like a Levi Colwell, I think what we're looking at here is a player who, he's got the potential. He definitely has got the potential, man. Looking here, obviously, at his positions, as I said, centre back, he's played over 80 times. That's obviously his full record. So he used to play, obviously, for Huddersfield. He was on loan there. Came back to Chelsea. Then went, obviously, on loan to Brighton. And as I said, he can obviously play left back. Now, as I said, when it comes to someone like a Levi Cole, a lot of people have been speaking about him. A lot of people like him. A lot of people think that he is, you know, he's the player that we need to sign as a club. And I think a lot of people are probably going to agree that he might be the kind of player that you want, especially if you're going to play. He plays in a system already where they play three at the back. You know, when we look at his record, obviously, whilst he was at Huddersfield, fantastic over there. You know, you can see with his long pass accuracy, his take on success was 76%. You know, we can see at the top here, aerial duel success, over 60%, ground duel success, 64%, you know, ball carrying success. And that's probably one of the key ones, the long pass and the ball carrying success, and take on, actually, to be fair. Those are quite key in terms of where he might actually set up. So I'm looking at him. He's left-footed, can play left back. So I'm looking at if Liverpool are going with this new system. Now, this is just for Liverpool, but any team, to be honest with you, if you're playing with three at the back, I think he would suit that left-hand side a lot better than a Robbo, for example. But that just depends on how you play that three at the back, because the way that Jurgen Klopp has got Liverpool playing this three at the back isn't your conventional three. You've kind of got, it's a bit weird, because you've kind of got Robbo, who still pushes up, but he pushes up almost like he is at fullback, which is quite weird, because usually when you've got the three at the back, they don't really bomb forward. They don't really join with attacks. Yes, they get a little bit forward and they might start, like, potentially start attacks. So I rarely will see, unless, you know, you're overloading one side, I rarely see, for example, Nathan Ake, you know, getting himself all the way up there. Or I rarely see Akanji getting himself, you know, up there, kind of thing. It's quite rare to see them so far up the pitch. But with the way that Jurgen Klopp has obviously got the team playing, you've still got Robbo who's bombing forward, and it's almost like Liverpool just have two at the back. So it's just really just two defenders up against however many attackers are there at any one time. And then obviously you've got Konate on the other side, who isn't a ball playing, you know, defender. He is literally a defender first, which obviously has its pros, has its cons, but he's a defender first. So with him, what you've got is he ends up having to almost play right centre back / right back, because obviously he's trying to then cover Trent's position, because Trent isn't there anymore, but technically Trent is back there. So it's a weird, the way that it's so B-Tech to do it. That's probably the best way I could probably describe it. It's so B-Tech the way that Liverpool do this whole Trent into the middle and stuff like that. It just doesn't really make sense. But obviously, if that's the way that he wants to go, and we're obviously looking at players who could potentially fit that mold, this is why I look at someone like a Levi Cole. Now, as I said, obviously he's been linked with Liverpool. That doesn't mean he's going to come to Liverpool. If Chelsea was smart, they would tie this guy down to the 8-year contracts that they're giving out to, you know, half of their players. We look at here, obviously his progressive carries and passes. This is for this season, from all the games that he's played in the FA Cup and in the Premier League, obviously quite a lot. And obviously you can see it again down that left-hand side. So I think that with someone like him, I think what you're getting is a very good ball-playing centre-back, but you're also getting someone who can, in that final third, and can also help to build attacks. And that's what I like about, you know, Levi Colwill. Isn't it just the sheer fact that because he's left-footed and he's a centre-back, even though that is a rare commodity in itself, I just look at him and I think to myself, you know what? He's definitely a player who, in a few years' time, I mean, he's already big, he's already strong, he's already quick, he can keep up with attackers, he's got good football IQ, he's got good a good positional awareness, good at interceptions, good at tackling, as I said, good at dribbling, close ball control. He's got good technique as well. I'm not saying he's perfect at all of these things. I'm just saying, you know, the level that he's at this current moment in time is a very good level, and it's a very good base to actually start from, if I'm being totally honest with you. You know, so why not get someone like him in? On top of the fact that he's obviously English and it helps with the homegrown thing, I just think that someone like him on that left-hand side, for me, again, this is just one of many players. So I don't want people to sit here and think, yes, if we don't sign Levi Colwill, it's the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. No. There's so many other players that we're going to look at, obviously, throughout the summer and stuff like that. Anyway, a lot of centre backs, a lot of, you know, left backs and all these kind of like various different things. I just look at someone like a Levi Colwill and I just think to myself, he ticks a lot of boxes. He ticks so many boxes, so many boxes. And if we look at here, this is obviously his touch map and heat map from this season. As I said, from all the games in the FA Cup and Premier League this season, down that left-hand side. So how does he then compare with, say, a Matip or a Gomez, for example? And I think the reason why I chose those two was because ultimately he'd be coming in for one of those two anyway, in terms of the, would I say, status within the squad that he would have next season. So looking at someone like Matip, we can see here. Now, remember, by the way, I do believe that he's actually played less games than Matip. I'm not 100% sure. Not 100% sure. Matip might have played less games, to be fair. Because when I was looking at these stats, I was quite astonished. You know, passes attempted per 90, 81. Passes completed, pass accuracy. Even though Matip is quite pretty decent, to be fair, it's not that far off. Successful long passes per game. Again, he's just ahead of Matip. Moving on to the next one. Passes completed in own half. Forward passes. Forward passes. That's something that I like a lot from defenders, because I'm sick and tired of defenders passing sideways and backwards. It actually, in fact, any player who does that, it just grinds my gears. Like, why are you passing the ball backwards? Like, is the pitch not this way? Like, we don't need to pass the ball backwards. Let's, you know what I'm saying? We need to keep the ball moving forward, kind of thing. And it's a good telltale sign as well. Duels contested, obviously Matip's coming out on top. Tackles made in games, Matip is definitely coming out on top. Something that I do like. Take-ons as well. That one kind of surprised me from this season, from Levi Cole, because obviously they got it down here at 0, whereas Matip is obviously 0.4. So that kind of surprised me a little bit, to be honest with you. Aerial duel success, 80 to Matip's 45. Ground duels contested. So again, Matip is making more, is having more ground duels in games than Levi Cole. Levi Cole, again, another interesting stat as well. Something that I kind of looked at and thought, I know obviously Colwell is young, but again, we got to compare these kind of stats, because it's these kind of stats that are going to necessarily determine whether or not he may or may not be a good fit for the squad. Because if a player is, if you look at some of these stats, again, not all of them, some of these stats are actually irrelevant, but I throw them in there just to kind of show you the full picture, so to speak. Some of these stats, when you look at them, ultimately, if a player that you've tried to compare with a player that we've already got, like, for example, if we've got a midfielder that we're looking at, but his stats are not really as good as a Fabinho, you're almost like, well, why would you then sign a player to play in Fabinho's position when Fabinho is already outperforming that individual? Even if we don't actually agree with some of the performances, if he's still outperforming that guy, is that guy then going to be any good? So sometimes that's why I show some of these kind of stats, because, you know, I try to look at, you know, in almost like in a full picture kind of thing. But again, you know, it's neither here nor there. Not all stats are going to be you know, available, and not all stats are going to be stats that you necessarily need. It just depends on what type of player you're kind of looking for, you know, in that kind of position. Again, apologies for my voice, guys. Apologies, but you know, we're going to plow through regardless. Looking obviously at the clearances, 3.8 to Colwell's 2.5, and interceptions. Again, not too far off. So it's not quite off, but again, Matip is coming out in certain things, and you know, Colwell's coming out in other areas. So it just kind of depends on if Jurgen Klopp feels like this might be a player that who can develop into a very good player. His stats are not that far off and Matip's anyway, and that's just Joel Matip, by the way. When we look at you know, Joe Gomez, so obviously I wanted to compare what he would be like up against a Joe Gomez for next season. Aerial duels, he's winning that. Ground duels, and ground duels 1. Gomez has got that. Ground duel success, obviously Gomez got that. Clearances, he's got that. Interceptions, blocks, clean sheets, he's got all of that. I mean, not too far off. Again, when it comes to the interceptions, 1.1 to 1.5. Clearances, 2.5 to 3.1. And even the ground duel success, you know, 52 to 59. It's not far off, but Gomez is obviously coming out on top. Again, we move on to passes attempted in games. Cole's just about coming out on top. Passes completed. Again, he's coming out on top. Accuracy is just coming out on top. So clearly he's a better passer, as we can see here. That's the kind of gist that I'm getting, is that he's a better passer. He's better on the ball than, say, a Joseph Gomez or Joao Matip. But when it comes to the other side, in terms of the tackling and things like that, it seems like the Matips and the Gomez, they're kind of coming out on top in these kind of regards. But again, these kind of things can change over time. Forward passes, again, look, as you can see, he likes to get the ball forward. But he's not played that many games anyway, but this is just obviously in the games that he has played this season. You can kind of see he is a player who does like to get on the ball. He is a player who does want to, push forward. And I think in that kind of role that we potentially might need for next season, hey, he's a player to look at the bare minimum. He is a player to look at. So, it's just one of them kind of things. But guys, let me know what you guys even think in terms of Levi Cole. Is he a player that you think that we should be looking at? Is he a player that you think that we should sign? Is he a player that you think that, even if it's Jurgen Klopp or whoever, is he a player that can mold into that, position of playing, the left side of centre back in a back three? And also, forget the sheer fact that we're talking about in a back three. How about someone to actually cover for Virgil van Dijk? How about that? I always think to myself, like, we don't seem to have another player who can play on that left-hand side. That actually bugs me. I think that's why a lot of people wanted a Vardio, do you know what I'm saying? Or a Bella Kocha, from Southampton, because you're just looking at that side of the pitch and you're thinking to yourself, Liverpool have a lot of players who can play on the right-hand side. Joe Gomez, Konate, Phillips, obviously he's going to go, but just players who can play on that right-hand side. But who can play on that left? And when I say play on the left, anyone can play on the left. So I've seen Matip play on the left, before, and things like that. Anyone can play on the left, but we obviously, when Virgil goes out, you want to still have that same kind of effect, obviously, as when he's there, i.e. the long passing, the way that we defend, the way that we go up the pitch, the way that we are in defensive transitions, all of these kind of different things. We still want that, even if Virgil is not there. So having a player who's comfortable to play on that left-hand side, I think, okay, that might just bode well, because if he's decent at passing, if he can still do the same things, he's not going to be able to do it as good as Virgil. I'm not saying that that's going to be the thing, so to speak. Like, Virgil's Virgil at the end of the day. You can't defend like Virgil. You cannot be Virgil van Dijk at the end of the day. But if we can still get the kind of same similarities, i.e. the passing, the way that we defend, the way that we push up the pitch, the way that we allow the left back to go, and all these kind of various different things, if we're still able to get that, why not? And I just think at this current moment in time, Liverpool do not have someone who can play on that left-hand side. And I just think that that's going to be a hindrance to them in the future, because Virgil cannot play all the time. Do you know what I mean? He just can't play all the time. So what happens when he gets injured? Liverpool just almost look a little bit disjointed, a little bit dysfunctional when he's not there. That shouldn't be the case. I know Virgil is Virgil at the end of the day, and he's a fantastic player, and it's going to be very difficult to replace a player like that. And I'm not saying that Colwill was anywhere near as good as a Virgil van Dijk, but some of the attributes that Levi Colwill has, the versatility that he's got in his game. I mean, Virgil can't play left or right back. He can just about play centre back. Do you know what I mean? So the sheer fact that he can do that, I think it just adds to our game, and it just gives us almost like a different dimension. Again, it doesn't have to be Levi Colwill. There's other players out there, but as we're looking at Colwill today, looking at that versatility, the close ball control, the good passing technique, the good dribbling technique, good at tackling, good at interceptions, quite quick, strong, able to shield the ball, all of these kind of various different things. I'm looking at Colwill and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This might actually be a player that Liverpool may just need to try and see if we can get in there. Obviously, the fee's going to be probably a stumbling block, knowing Liverpool, and also knowing Chelsea, because they're not going to try and want to sell him on a cheap, especially because he is homegrown. So, there's going to be a lot of factors into like a deal like that. But I know that other clubs are potentially looking at him as well. So it's one of them things, man. Let's kind of wait and see as to what could potentially happen. I know a lot of people want this. This is just obviously something that was made up by LFC Transfers, big up themselves. Look, we'll wait and see on a player like this, but you guys let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of a Levi Colwill? Do you think that this is a player that Liverpool should sign? Do you think it's a player Liverpool need to sign? Are there any better players in terms of who can play that centre backs, like left centre back role / can also play at left back? Again, that versatility, being able to cover for an Andy Robertson. If, for example, you know, Klopp wants to play him at left back, who knows what's going to happen with Tsimikas? All of these kind of like different little things. Let me know, obviously, what you guys think in the comments. And as we head out, just like to say, again, apologies for the voice. But as I said, I'm still going to plow through regardless. I'm hoping you guys were able to hear me clearly enough. Today, we took a little look at Levi Colwill. Stay tuned, as we're going to be taking a look at some other players over the next coming weeks and months up until the end of the transfer window, even though it ain't even open yet. Make sure you obviously tune into the Jerry James show. Make sure you tune in, obviously, as I said, to GTV. And guys, please smash a like, share, subscribe. I'm G. That's our Scout Watch done. I'm out, man.